Hello and welcome to High Performance Imports V3 commentary. This is part 4, which is a drift event I went to in Kyushu. I actually went to this quite a lot earlier than I put this video together. I'd say it was early in 2001 that I went there. The reason that's relevant is, for one thing, my Japanese wasn't very good yet. I'd only been learning for a year at that point. And also my camera equipment wasn't really set up for going to a drift event because I didn't have a suction mount to do in-car footage. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. This was a really grassroots practice type of event, not really a competition. Lunatic Dancers was the club that organised the meeting, but there were people from lots of other drift clubs there as well. The circuit's called Mitsui Mike Auto Sports Land, and by the look of it, I'd say it was originally a go-kart track. It's very narrow, and I think it's been allowed to go into disrepair a fair bit if you look at all the holes and puddles and everything around. But it's ideal for this type of event where pretty much everyone is a beginner, really. And they're just there to improve their skills a bit and have some fun. Neat one via that, actually. In case you don't know, that's a S13 Sylvia with a 180SX nose on it. And that's a C33 Laurel just there. They were pretty popular back then. They had an RB20 turbo, but the suspension was the same as an S13.
The cars are sometimes very beaten up. In fact, some drivers seem to be proud of that fact. But you do see the occasional drifter without any dents, like this MZ20 Sora.
Quite a few Soras at that event, actually, which as the years went on, you hardly saw them at all. They're basically the same chassis as a A70 Supra, and you could get them with the same engines too, except they never came with a 1JZ. This is actually a really good way to learn throttle control when you're starting out, trying to learn to drift, especially the figure 8. That gives you how rapidly the car's going to transition in the other direction. So once you get good at this, you stop just spinning out all the time.
Once you have this mastered, it's time to strap on an approved crash helmet, show some respect to your fellow drivers, and hit the circuit.
It was a really fun event, this, actually, because everyone was just having a good time, not taking it too seriously, which is definitely the way to go when you're learning.
This old Corolla is a fairly unusual choice of drift car, so it's well known in Kyushu. The body is standard apart from flared guards, which are necessary to clear the increased track and wide wheels.
The guards are just rolled out, basically. Nice pair of Longchamps on the back there.
The engine is a supercharged 4A GZE from an AE 10111 with a Skyline intercooler in front.
As I mentioned before, I didn't really have a proper in-car mount. What I did here, I actually had one of the smaller cameras that I had sitting on a tripod in the back seat and held down by the seatbelts, which actually worked okay, but I didn't have a proper wide-angle lens either. So this was really a struggle trying to put anything together. I've also got my other usual camera, that's a Sony DCR VX2000, which was a very popular DV cam back then. actually very few corners on the track where you ever got out of second gear, which made it fairly safe, which is a good thing because I didn't have a helmet on. Amazingly, while they made the driver have a helmet on, they didn't seem to mind if I got in without one. Not something I'd probably do these days, but yeah, I figured considering how slow the course was, I'd probably be okay.
Everyone okay in the back? Let's try another lap.
See, I'm not actually in the car there. I was just combining some other footage I took to try and make it look a bit better. Patches of water on the ground certainly did make it easier for him. But they were kind of an advantage for some of the cars that didn't have much power. I was quite lucky really with this event because when I went there I didn't know what it was going to be like or whether I'd be able to do any in-car stuff. But someone in the pits actually came up and asked me if I'd like to go for a ride and talked to a couple of the drivers and they were happy, so this guy Daisuke Nagashima, and I actually met up with him a couple of times in Kyushu when I came back down. He's just telling me now about a couple of details about how the car was built. He actually worked at a place, I think it's called Taku Forklift, which is pretty much a wrecking yard, but they're also a tow truck service. So that probably came quite in handy for finding some cheap parts for the drift cars. Yeah, this is a pretty funny mashup he had with S13 coilovers in the front, and he cut and welded the control arms. Kind of thing that would horrify a lot of scrutineers these days, but for low speed drifting it's not quite as big a worry.
You can see why his club is called Lunatic Dancer.
Saga, incidentally, is a large prefecture in the middle of Kyushu, where his club was based.
This RX-7 convertible was another unusual choice of drift car. The driver was certainly going all out, but drifting a convertible with no roll cage just seems a bit too dangerous.
It came as a surprise. I thought he'd at least have some kind of rollover hoop, because convertibles built back then weren't really designed to protect you in a rollover, but didn't seem to bother him. This is the next guy I went for a ride with. Mate who like getting involved.
Although it sounds pretty angry, the engine still has a standard turbo and relatively low boost. The longer wheelbase of the Skyline means it doesn't snap so quickly, but it also means you need more precision on the narrow Mitsui track.
time, there was no way I could put the little camera in the back, so I just held on to my usual camera, which didn't have a wide enough lens either, so it was really tough to get any kind of decent in-car footage. Not sure if this track is still there, actually. A few of the little tracks have gone by the wayside in Japan. Kind of typical of club level drifting, that even when your tyres pretty much gone flapping around, you keep sliding around the circuit, make the most of your time.
Yep, right down to the belts.
As you can tell, most of these guys are in the really early 20s or younger. Mind you, back then I was only 29 myself. Another one beer. They're pretty popular back then.
Sure enough though, just when everyone is having a great time, the police show up. This is one of an elite squadron of 180SX pursuit cars organised to crack down on illegal street drift.
Yeah, obviously that was a complete lie. You did see quite a few cars in those days though dressed up to look like police cars just for a laugh. The funny thing is they were still registered, so I'm surprised they didn't cop any complaints when they were driving to the track, but I guess things were a little bit different there.
Finally, the boys in blue were thwarted by yet another destroyed tyre. Still, they don't seem too upset by it.
Sounds like you might have done a little bit of damage to the rim there too. Anyway, that's the end of that little drift excursion. Didn't get back down to Kyushu for a good year after that, but I always enjoyed going down there. Anyhow, that's the last part for High Performance Imports V3. Next I'll be doing High Performance Imports V4. We'll see you then. Cheers.